Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name is Sel. In this video, we are going to take a deep dive into the HSE Performance Monitoring Tool Lite version. Now, the Lite version is all about going back to the basics from where we started off as far as the manager version and the officer version are concerned. Now, sometimes every time we introduce a new update on both manager and officer version, we usually bring about an extra layer of complexity that makes it sometimes very difficult for people to maneuver, although the rule of thumb is that you focus on your database, you build your database of your targets and your actual KPIs, and that is it. All the other reports within the workbook will update automatically. All right, so if I should go just straight to the, let's say, the manager version, you notice that we have a lot of features. We have table of content that is up to about 54 worksheets within the workbook. We have approved lists, we have objectives and targets, we have targets, source data, actual source data, and all of these, this is mainly your main working area where you'll be building your database, including the actual, and then all these other reports will update automatically. And because they have already been pre-built, sometimes, it becomes a bit difficult because now you want to be able to wonder, how did we come about this graph? How can you fix, in case you make a mistake, how can you fix this and things like that? But because the template is already pre-built, we are saying that just operate within the limits, the parameters of the template. So these, indicators are generic and all, but if you want it customized for your need, then you can request for customization service, and we're going to do justice, to that for you. But for those who want to be able to make changes themselves, we've also done tutorial videos, showing you how to change certain KPIs and things like that. And yet we recognize that it could still be overwhelming, all right? And we want people to be able to understand how to change KPIs themselves. So instead of, encouraging that you continue to learn how to do all of that from the officer and manager version, we have decided to bring, the Lite version in here, just for you to understand that you can start off from this level and then add on. That is exactly what we did. We started off, from a very simple template like this. It was just, a very simple template, and eventually we decided to add on with the features. So that's exactly what you can do. So without further ado, let's get straight into how to change all the KPIs within the Lite version of the HS Performance Monitoring Tool. Now I have my set of KPIs here. So that is a performance metric, that comprises my reactive KPIs, proactive KPIs. These are totally different from what we have in the spreadsheet. At least for the most part, we are going to change all of them. Just a few ones that may still remain because the names are pretty much the same. Now, to make it easier for this tutorial, I've already transferred those KPIs onto a spreadsheet. So let me just make sure that that spreadsheet is open. All right, so there we have it. I've already transferred those KPIs onto a spreadsheet so that I could easily copy and paste, because I don't want to be typing from Word document, and that would waste time. All right, so let's go back straight to this. Guys, if you want to change anything, first and foremost, just take note the password is right here. That is the first step you need to remember. You have the password to actually unprotect the worksheet and unprotect the workbook structure. Now, protecting or unprotecting a worksheet it means that you are on an active sheet and you want to make changes to that sheet. Over here, when we are trying to unprotect the sheet, it means that perhaps you want to be able to change the logo, change the column titles and things like that, and sort of adapt the template to your workplace brand and things like that. Change the logo, change the colors, and all of that. So I'll select the formula right here so that it pops up in the formula bar. Then I could see it, and I click on unprotect worksheet. Now I'll quickly enter the password. All right, that's SHEQXEL PMTLV. All right, so now that I have this unprotected, I could now grab the password, and do Control-C so that at least I've copied it and I could paste it. I could just come here, unprotect this sheet, because I'm going to make changes to this sheet. This is the source data, and I'm going to change all the KPIs, all right? Now, again, once I change the KPIs, most likely I will have to rename the sheet as well, or the tabs, because they have to conform to the category of the KPI. So to be able to add new sheets, rename worksheets, move sheets into this or create copies of sheets and things like that, you need to protect or unprotect the workbook structure. All right, so the workbook structure is to enable you to actually add new worksheets to the workbook. So you can see that now the plus sign is very active. All right, so I think here I would have to unprotect that here as well, because once I'm done changing the tabs, then I want to change this as well, because I would have to amend all the click here, because these are all hyperlinked to the various tabs. And once you rename it, then it wouldn't be active again. All right, so now I have this unprotected, I have this unprotected, I have this unprotected, and I've unprotected the workbook structure. Now, remember I have my set of KPIs already on a spreadsheet here. Now again, I don't want to move across workbook, change, copy this and come and paste over here. I just want to make sure I'm working within the same workbook, all right? So what I'm going to do here is that I'll just right click on this and I'll move this and place it into the other workbook. That shouldn't confuse you. It's just my personal preference. I just want to make sure I create a copy of this and place it in the workbook. So you see, if I click on this, then it moves over here. I created a copy, so the file is still here. So let me just close this. All right. Now I have my set of KPIs. Now, those of you who are quite observant, you realize that in the manager or the officer version, we had a set of KPIs like this, and we called it objectives and targets. So it was there as objectives and target sheets. So it looks very familiar, right? You have the objectives, you have the KPIs, and we had actually other columns like actual and then the target columns. And these are all coming from various, like the source data was coming from actual, the actual is coming from actual source data and targets. So it means that you can potentially build on the template using the same approach, all right? But then for the purpose of this tutorial, we are only going to change the KPIs in the source data, because it's not like actual and target. It's strictly source data. So let's go straight into it. Now, I'm quite lazy when it comes to Excel. I like to work smart, okay? I literally want to just copy and paste. I don't want to be typing. So first and foremost, you're going to change all the lagging indicators. And this is the objective. So it's related to workplace accident, all right? So I just click on this, I copy, and then I come to the source data, and I would literally paste it over here and transpose. So I'll just paste and transpose. So there I have it. I've pasted it in here, and I would copy the formatting. The formatting is the colors and the font and all the styling that are in there. I'll just copy it with the paintbrush. So I go to home tab, I click on the paint brush, and then I select everything. Then I maintain the formatting. All right. So I'm going to delete these ones because I don't need them anymore. I've literally changed the KPIs to what we are now going to work with. So without wasting time, I'll do the same thing to all the KPIs and back shortly. All right, so now that we have renamed all the KPIs, all right, the next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to refresh all right? So just take note after we have renamed our KPIs, all right? So just make sure that for the purpose of this tutorial, I want to make sure every column or every KPI has some data to work with, all right? So these are, some data that I'm going to make sure it's helping us populate our graph. So now the most important step I need to take is that I just go to the data tab and I would refresh all. All right, so now that I've refreshed all, you notice all the KPIs are gone. Some of them are actually gone. Some of them are still there. The reason why they are still the case is because the names have not changed. The names were literally the same as the ones that were there before. For instance, things like, if we go here, man hours, we didn't change that. Fatalities, permit work issued, they were pretty much the same, so they've not changed. So what we need to do next is that we need to fix the dashboard. We need to fix all the reports. Now take note that the dashboard is coming from individual KPI reports. So these KPI reports are what have been put onto a dashboard. So I would have to quickly start fixing those reports. So just remember this is a pivot table and chart. So before you can actually start correcting them, you need to understand a bit of pivot table, but this is why we are here. I'm going to show you that. Just click on the pivot table. So this is a pivot table. This is a pivot chart. Click on the pivot table, right click and go to field list. It's going to be there as show field list. Show field list. All right. Now this pops up and then you check all the lagging indicators. So we have fatality there already. So we go on to lost time injuries, restricted work cases, medical treatment cases, first aid, road traffic incident, environmental incident, and near miss. All right. So guys, we've been able to introduce, the KPI back, but just take note that when we clicked on it, they were all populating accordingly. They were populating as expected. They are showing here, and most importantly, they are showing as sum of. Sometimes it could be showing as count of, and you have to just right click on it, and go to the field settings and then change it from count off to sum off. So luckily for us, everything is properly aligned. All right. So in your case, it's likely to be the case. Now, take note that sometimes you have sum off showing and things like that, but you can actually get rid of all these sum off. All right. So that is like what we have here as fatality. We can actually get rid of the sum off, but just make sure there's a space in front. If there's no space in front, it's going to give you an error like this. It's going to give you an error like this. That's the field name already exists. All right. So just make sure every time there's a space right in front. So this is how we get rid of the sum off. In some of our template, we didn't really remove the sum off because there are just too many KPIs in there, and perhaps that would be like going the extra mile. You can actually do that. So we've now been able to, fix it. Like, everything is looking cool, and automatically that starts to work on the dashboard. All right, because all these dashboards are literally the individual, KPI reports. So I move on to the next, man hours. Fortunately, we didn't have to change man hours because the name is pretty much, relevant. Now we move on to control of work. All right, so if I click here, I see that, okay, so we have permit to work issued, risk assessment, we add the toolbox stocks, and that is it. So there are 4 KPIs in number. All right, so I'll just also get rid of the sum off in front of it, and the same applies to the toolbox stock, and I will change the color because usually I don't like this color. I like to use this color. All right, so now we've been able to fix this back. Now when we go onto the dashboard, you realize control of work has now been introduced, except that we later have to work on the colors. Right, now we move on to the next, and this is actually not inspection anymore. We call it workplace controls KPIs. All right, or monitoring KPIs for workplace controls. And monitoring KPIs are, inspections, audits, safety walkthroughs, and things like that. So we're gonna go straight to the point with inspection, audits, non-conformance, open, non-conformance, closed, and management vested. These are always that you maintain workplace controls. So I'll just want to call it workplace controls KPIs. All right, workplace controls KPIs. Guys, however you want to call it, it's all up to you. The idea is that you have the chance to review all these KPIs. Usually your KPIs will be driven by your health and safety priorities, your workplace, your company priorities, the nature of your workplace activities, and the kind of system that you need to put in place for monitoring purpose, so that you can actually ensure that all the control measures that you have are all, are all in place and controlly adequate, basically. So we worked on this. I'll have to maintain the formatting, or better still, this is the trick. All right, sometimes you don't want to go through this whole process. Perhaps there's a particular type of chart that you want to replicate the same. You just do Control C of the chart, and then you come over to the very report that you're updating, then you click on it and paste over it. All right, so we've done that for control of work KPIs, and we move on to the next. That has to do with behavior-based safety observation. Now, fortunately for us, this one is just one KPI. All right, it's just one KPI, so we have no business here. Only that we may want to change the color to make it consistent with the rest. And then we move on. And this one we called it employee participation. Though it could still be behavior-based safety, we call it employee participation in safety through behavior-based safety programs. So, but it's all up to you. You still want to call it, safety observation card. All right, so just ignore how I'm renaming things here. At the end of the day, everything will be all up to you and your company, how you call your KPIs and what titles you want to give it. We move on to the next, which has to do with employee competence, training, and awareness. And this one has to do with the fact that we we are doing an induction, we are training employees, we are doing senior management training, we have general safety meetings. All right. So there's also, fortunately for us, they're all showing as sum off. So just take note. If you're showing as count off, you'd have to correct it. So we get rid of it, the sum off right in front, and we make sure there's a space there to make sure there are no issues and all. So we've been able to correct it, and we call it employee competence and awareness. All right, and then we move on to the next, which is, okay, let me just make sure I rename the tab as well. Okay, and awareness, sorry. Then we move on to the next, which is emergency preparedness. All right, emergency preparedness. And there are actually a set of KPIs for that. So we go grab the, oops. Okay, what happened? Okay, so I wanted to change the chat title, all right? Okay, so now we click on the pivot table, make sure that the pivot table field list is showing, and we go in and select all the KPIs for emergency preparedness. So there's emergency lighting test, there's fire alarm test, there's fire evacuation drill, there's spill control drills, and that is it. Okay, so the same thing, we get rid of the sum off right in front of it. All right. Okay, and we change the color of the chart. And I think there's a last one which has to do with quality KPI. This is a quality KPI. So we click on the pivot table, we come all the way down, and we locate the quality KPI. So we have training evaluation to ascertain the quality of training, supply evaluation to ascertain the quality of suppliers or the competence of the suppliers, customer satisfaction survey, customer feedback or complaints. And then the same thing, fortunately for us, they're all showing a sum of, and they're properly aligned as you were expecting. All right. Sometimes they wouldn't align properly. One could actually come here, another one could go there, and you have to rearrange them properly. All right. So the same thing we try to correct, and then we change the name of the tab, which is quality KPI or KPIs. Okay. So once you've been able to change all these graphs, automatically they are going to improve upon how the dashboard is looking. All right, so we've literally fixed everything back, and we need to now set the formatting. They were looking very, very nice. Now it's looking a little bit different, and yet we keep saying that you have the option to change the colors. All right, I prefer this color. So what I'm going to do is I'll just copy this format, Control C. If you want to copy the format and paste over this, just select the graph, Control C, and select this graph also. Just take notes what make up a dashboard. The dashboard is made up of, a shape at the back, nicely colored, and then we have the chart over it, and we make sure we change the colors and things like that. So that's what exactly we're going to do here. And I think that I always want the chart to look a little bit bigger, so that at least it occupies the entire space a little bit. Now Control C, paste it over it, and then do the same thing for this, and do the same thing for this as well, and do the same thing for this. All right, and do the same thing for this as well. So I've been able to correct the dashboard, brought back the all the KPIs, and now I need to make sure that the titles are correct. So workplace controls KPIs, and then this one is safety observation cards, and this one is emergency preparedness, and this one is employee competence, and awareness. And this one is quality KPIs. Okay. All right, so now as you can see, you've been able to fix the dashboard and everything works perfectly. All right, everything works perfectly. Now this one is not showing, it doesn't make sense. It's just one KPI. So when it comes to um, safety behavior based programs or the behavior based safety programs, where you at observation card. All right, so was there as employee participation. All right, so over here, because it's just one KPI, we may want to just make sure it's showing as a monthly KPI, not like just the KPI and what the figure is. So we want it to show like as monthly, report, and we would actually group the data here. So we just right click on this and group data and change it to month, right? So there we have July, August. So that's the data we have. And if you go onto the dashboard, you see that, all right, we have, July, August showing. So now the dashboard looks very, very cool. Now we want to work on this. That is the HSE statistics and the HSE report. Now the HSE statistics and the report are pretty much the same, except that we brought some summary information here just to distinguish it, and we brought some slices in here. But to a large extent, it's just the same table that we're going to work on. As you can see, the same table. All right, so let's focus on the statistics. Let's bring back all the data. Now, just mind that the statistic has to be arranged in a chronological order. We have some titles or some items that we use to categorize those KPIs. All right, so control of work, we have a set of KPIs, training, a set of KPIs, and things like that. Now, these KPIs or these items are within the pivot table. So every time something is within the pivot table, it means that it is part of the source data or it is part of the Excel table. So as you can see, we have all the categories here. And some of them, we've changed them. All right, so we need to go back to the source data, which is the Excel table. If you want to know it's an Excel table, just click on it. You see the table pop up at the top. So that's an Excel table. And then we need to change the categories because the categories are part of the table, as you can see. And we need to make sure that they are pretty much consistent with what we have here. All right, so workplace, control of work hasn't changed. Incident hasn't changed. So workplace controls, which actually replaces inspections, and then emergency preparedness actually replaces emergency drill. Okay, and then employee participation also replaces behavior-based safety program, and then quality KPI replaces something else. It replaces training. All right, it replaces training. All right, so I would refresh all. Okay, let me not refresh all. I'll show you how it translates in the pivot table. So let's go to the HS statistics. I click on it. Let me just reduce the size a little bit. Okay, now if I scroll all the way down, you see that the old ones are there. So once I refresh all, you see now they change all of them. Some of them have changed because those that were still there would not change because the names are pretty much the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check, or let me not check them yet. Okay, let me not check them yet. I need to start off by unchecking all the ones there because I want everything to arrange chronologically. Just look at the table. You see when I uncheck, then it get removed. So now I'm going to follow in a chronological order, moving like this, and take note they're all showing as sum of, and they are populating down here. All right, so sum of, sum of, sum of. I move in a chronological order so that it becomes easier for me to just categorize them with the items that we've introduced in the Excel table, which is now part of the pivot table fields. All right, now I move on to the items that we're going to use to categorize. So quality, performance, workplace controls, all these ones, we actually do that. Now just remember, some of them are actually showing us count of. Now it's not a big deal because we don't have data for them, but like I was saying, some KPIs could show as count off and you have to select them. Now, because there's no data for them, we don't really mind if they're showing as count off because we don't want to populate into there's nothing really to populate. So I'll start by getting rid of this, the count off or the sum off in front of each one of them. All right. And just remember that it does not really matter if they are there as sum off, but if you really want to do that, fair enough. Because sometimes it's a lot of work when you're trying to remove all these sum off. All right, so I've showed you how to do that. You can do that yourself. So now I'm going to categorize them. So I have the incidents. I'll just scroll all the way up. I click on this, make sure that, and I hover the mouse over it, just make sure that it changes to a hand and drag it all the way to the top. All right, and place it above fatality. So now we are going to see that incident, all these ones are under incidents. All right, so move on to the next, which is control of work, and we select it. You hover the mouse over it, you go all the way up. Sometimes if it doesn't go up, just move one at a time. All right, so that you can actually keep moving up. Sometimes Excel will not allow you to just drag it all the way up. All right, so I place it there, and there you have it. And I come to the next set of KPIs, which is workplace controls KPIs. So I just select this, I come all the way up, I place it to above inspection. Then I have a couple of KPIs, which is all right, so you do the same thing for the quality. Let's look at it. Okay, so move on to emergency preparedness. So you hover the mouse over it, it changes into a hand and scroll all the way up, drag it all the way up to emergency, preparedness types of KPIs. And then we move on to employee participation, which is the not employee participation, right? It's employee competence. There's no employee competence. Employee competence and awareness. Oh, okay, so there's no employee competence and awareness. We did not introduce that, so we need to make sure that is in there. So let's unhide and find out. Okay, so there's no employee competence and awareness. So I'll just insert another column and I call it employee competence and awareness. So that'll be this. All right, and I'll hide this. And then I'll come down here, make sure I refresh all. Okay, just take notes. Yes, there you have it, employee competence and awareness. So I just get rid of the count off. And then I drag it up. Okay, and we move on to the next, which is employee participation and then quality KPI. So we place it just above here. All right, so now we've been able to introduce our KPIs, but just remember over here you can actually group it into days. So if you're looking at daily reports, then it's going to look like this. All right, so you have your daily statistics basically, or you can have monthly statistics. So what we can do next is that we can now change the colors of this. Change it to whichever color that we want. All right, we can do that for all of them, just to distinguish between the various categories. Let's just stick to this. Okay, so you have the option to remove all the sum off if you don't think they are cool to look at or you don't find them professional. You can get rid of it. Now we move on to HSE report. We literally follow the same format, so we just show the field list and we want to make sure everything follows chronologically. So I'll just get rid of all these ones because I don't want to jump over them because they are already in the table, and sometimes when I keep clicking, it's going to add on to the list rather than having to position them properly. So chronologically, guys, we start clicking on it, and fortunately for us, they are all showing as sum off, which is good because sum off means that you are summing up the content within the column. So all the figures in the column will be summed up. Count off will just be counting number of occurrence in the column, so you wouldn't really take into account the figures. You're going to count them as unique items. All right, so now that we are done with all the KPIs, I'll just proceed with this. These are what we're going to use to categorize those KPIs. So this is just being smart. We created some helper columns that will help us to do that, or helper rows that's going to help us to categorize. All right, so these helper rows, they don't really add any value, just for segregating them or categorizing them. So we don't mind if they are showing us some off. It's just if it's count off, that's still okay for us, because there's no data that we want to use. All right, so the same thing, incident. So fatality is supposed to come down here. Control of work is supposed to move all the way down here to permit to work issued. Then we move on to quality KPI reports. We place it all the way here because we can just jump across and fix that really quick. Employee participation is going to come all the way here. Employee competence awareness, we go all the way here as part of training. Emergency drills will come all the way here. And then workplace controls KPI will come all the way up here. So we just make sure that it's properly located. So that comprises inspection, the rest. So we now select these rows. Oops, why are you trying to select both? All right, and we change the colors. We change the color, we can bold in it. All right, we can bold in it. We do the same thing for this. Okay, so guys, as you can see, we've been able to correct all these, pivot tables and HS report and things like that. Only that we have some errors here that we have to fix, but just take note, we have changed all these lagging indicators. We've changed them to different types. So all these ones are gonna, it's not the same as this. If you look at it critically, lost time injury into brackets, LTI is different from this. So what we can do is that we just use an equal sign to select this. We use an equal sign to select medical treatment case. We use an equal sign to select restricted work case. We use an equal sign to select first aid cases, property damage. There's no property damage in there, so we can replace with environmental spill. And then there are other ones to do with near miss. All right. Now remember that because we use an equal sign, it means that if you further go ahead to just change this, it's pretty much going to be the same. So nothing's going to change because the names are the same. So guys, as you can see, we've been able to change all the KPIs, and that's exactly what you should be able to do when it comes to the Lite version of the HSE Performance Monitoring Tool. So the next thing we may want to do is just change the these hyperlinks, because we have renamed the sheets. Then we may want to rename it here as well, and then just take notes. The hyperlink will no more be valid, so we need to select the right hyperlink, to the very tab that we want to move to. So I'm not going to work on the hyperlink. That is something that you can do yourself. So guys, as you can see, we've been able to create our own KPIs, or we've changed all the KPIs. We've been able to fix the dashboard. Now this is showing us daily data points, simply because this is daily data point. If we group the data into month, then on the dashboard it's going to show monthly data points. All right, so this is how we started with the manager version, officer version of the HSE Performance Monitoring Tool. We started like this, very, very simple tool based on requests from users. That's why not have objectives and target. Then we brought in objectives and target. Why not have a system where you build a database of target? Then we introduce a target source data. Why not, help us make sense out of the KPIs? Then we had to create several other dashboards. Why not give us a way of, calculating incident trend? Couldn't we have a graph? Then we brought in a graph. All these brought lots of complexities to the tool, and those who are very good with Excel are able to manage it and do their own customization. Nevertheless, we provide customization service. If you want to do that and you can't do that, we're always here. But if you also want to have total control of the template, then I would advise you go back to the basics, which is the Lite version of the HSE Performance Monitoring Tool. Now, I want to go the extra mile with another quick tutorial. All right, so I want to show you how to create your own, not just change KPIs, how to create a new set of KPIs. All right. So let's just stick to a number of 4 KPIs. So I'm going to create some columns in here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to call it permit. Let's just call it permit to work. All right, not control or work, just permit to work. And we're going to look at all the various types of permits, just a number of them. All right, so hot work permits. We look at electrical permits. We look at excavation permit, and we look at work at height permit. All right. Now let's bring in some dummy data. So let's just copy these ones here. Control C, Control V. All right, so we have a set of KPIs and we want to create them here. Now, instead of going through the long process of creating a pivot table like this, because you can actually create a pivot table, transpose it onto a new sheet or export it on a new sheet like this, and then you would actually select the KPIs, the set of KPIs, but just remember, they are not here yet. All right, so we need to refresh all. Once we refresh all, then they're going to pop up somewhere. Okay, there they are. So let's just bring it back. Just take note, observe. If I refresh all, they're all going to pop up. Then we select each one of them. As we select each one of them, they are going to show as sum of, and we need to actually let them align properly. So we use this to, let them show like this, similar to what we have in these other reports. You see, these other reports are all arranged like that. So instead of going through this long process of starting all over again, this is the trick. Don't waste your time doing this. Just come here. You like this report, it looks perfect for you. It's just literally the same number of KPI. This one is 5, the other one is 4. The difference wouldn't be much if you are trying to manipulate it. So all we need to do is just create a copy. All right, go to control of where, create a copy, and let it be by it. All right, and we can now call it permit to work. All right, and you can change the title because we're going to change it anyway. And we now have to remove those KPIs. We need to remove these ones because we don't need them. All of this, we don't need them. And then we come to hot work permit, electrical permits, excavation, work at height. Fortunately, they're all showing us sum of. Okay, now I like this formatting. I just do Control C and I paste it. I select the graph and paste it over it. There I have it. And I can now take my time to remove this. Okay, now I have my new KPI. Now, if I select this, you realize it's only applicable to this. For instance, if I select just this, all right, if I come here, you realize, it doesn't control this, it doesn't control that. But for the purpose of a dashboard, we want to make sure that once you select this, everything is controlled. All right, so what I have to do next is I have to report connection. So I just click on this and I go to report connection and I connect this pivot table to the rest of the pivot tables. All right. Then I do the same thing for the timeline as well. Now, comparing, okay, so let's now select the data and see everything now populates nicely. If we select this and if we select here and we come here, we go to a dashboard, it's the same thing, right? If we select everything and we go on the dashboard, it's the same thing. If we select company A alone and we come here, it's the same thing. So whatever you select here is able to affect the other. Now comparing this to this, which one is simpler, all right? Obviously, this one is very, very simple. So let's delete this because we don't want to go through that long process. We only want to work with already existing formatting, already existing report that we've created. And that makes life much easier. Okay, so obviously this will not fit on the dashboard. To create a dashboard, you need to plan properly. You need to just do your floor plan. It's like you're building a house. You do your floor plan. You make sure everything is aligning properly. I want to have 4 sets of KPIs here, 4 sets of KPIs here. Everything looks properly aligned. Now to bring the extra one, obviously there's no space for it, and that would mean that you need to create another dashboard. So you may want to have a number of KPIs or KPI categories to be able to create a dashboard. Other than that, then you're better off using just the chart alone. Now, assuming I had 4 KPIs, all right, all I need to do is that I can create a copy of this dashboard, which means that again, I don't have to start from scratch. I just create a copy of the dashboard, and then I can rename it to something else, maybe dashboard, maybe II or something. Okay, and all I need to do is just copy this chart, bring it here. Okay, bring it here and paste it outside of the dashboard for now. And then take your time to delete all these ones. Just delete the chart. Make sure you are selecting the chart, delete it. Delete it. And if you want to maintain the same format, let's just copy this and paste over this because we want to maintain this. Okay, you will get there. Let's not rush. All right, so let's delete this. Let's delete this. Let's delete this. And we don't need this anymore as well. So we just get rid of this as well. And now we copy this chart, bring it up, and resize it. So when it comes to resizing, you may want to resize it equally. So usually you go to format and you use this to resize properly. So to keep the size consistent, right? So let's say 3.2, 2.2, all right? And perhaps that makes it very nice. Now, what I'll need to do is just copy this format. I intentionally reserve this so that I will just paste over this. And now we have our new KPI. So I will just delete this one because we don't need it. We start with other one. So we have one, report in here, and the more KPIs we have, the more we want to populate them here, and then now they look pretty cool, and we can create one, pie chart of all of them if we like. All right, so that is how you can create your own dashboard without having to start from scratch. If you are to start from scratch, then it's going to be like this. Now I have to go to shapes. You now have to apply a little bit of creativity. You need to now go through all the process of trying to create a dashboard. That's not the best approach. Just work with an existing dashboard, and with this it's quite easier to change the colors if you like. You change it to yellow. You can change it to whichever color that your company uses, your company brand, and that's it. So guys, thank you all for this attention. I believe that this tutorial is very, very useful for you. It's gonna change a lot of game for you guys, knowing that you have the ability to change all KPIs in the Lite version of the HSE Performance Monitoring Tool. Now, if you are interested in the templates, simply visit us on www.SHEQXEL.com. All right, so SHEQXEL.com is where you would always find this template. Visit us here. You scroll all the way down to the middle section of the home page. You'll find a list of templates in there. All right, so it's taking time to load. So there you have it. Where you are. Okay, so there you have it. Lite version, HSE Performance Monitoring Tool. We have manager version, observation, Lite version. Now, if you come here, there's a price list. We have a price list that you can actually do a quick search if you like. All right. So rather than having to navigate and try to find things around, here's a summary of everything. Just click HSE, or let's say Lite version. That's right there, Lite version. Okay, so and once you click on it, it's going to take you to the product page. This is for the product page. The download page is for download page. All right, so product page is where you can see all the pictures. All right, so let's just type Lite version. You click on this, it takes you to the product page, and you click on this, it takes you to the download page. Okay, so the product page is here. That's where you're going to see all the pictures and read some important information about the template. And the download page is where you can actually see the video and you can actually make a purchase. All right, so that's just about it. And if you want to connect with SHEQXEL, I'm always here. Just say hi. I'm going to respond instantly. And again, you can book a meeting. When you come to the support page, just click on book a meeting, and I'm going to be right there waiting for you. All right, so thank you all for your attention, and meet you again soon in another video. Bye for now.